And Dharma is the weapon. Why? What does it protect you from? From running afoul of your karma, right? From having problems. It protects you from all the conflicts if you follow it. And if you're not in touch with Dharma, if you don't feel what it is, you don't have a sense of what's right, then you should follow the scripture. That's why the scripture's there. Consciousness evolved the Dharma Shastra, the scripture on Dharma, for people who are not in touch with their inner Dharma, with their nature, and with the nature of reality around. So and they just tell you how to act and how to behave in such a way that you don't make waves. Now that's a huge problem for us Western people, because we don't have a dharmic societies. Our societies are based upon what? Desire. Desire is not about following the rules. Desire is not about appreciating what's going on around you. Desire is about getting what you want from the environment.
Like getting it now.
Yeah, like in that movie Avatar. That movie Avatar was it came from the Vedas. Actually, they dug up this idea from here, from the Vedas and the Gita. It's about these two thought systems. The desire-oriented thought system, the greedy thought system that's out there to like get as much as you can from the environment at all costs, whatever it costs, whatever it takes to get what you want, and this what? The other Dharma system, which is like being part of the Dharma field, worshiping it, enjoying, being friendly with it, being in contact with it, honoring it, serving it, right, and working together with it. Those people lived in harmony that did that, and these, the big, nasty, greedy American guys, they were what? Violators of Dharma. And you can see in that movie, when that big tree, which represents the tree of the Vedas, it's the Vedic knowledge, that tree goes down, doesn't it? The Vedas are likened to a tree of knowledge. The Dharma Shastra is likened to a tree of knowledge, and that's in the center of their community. It means in the center of the universe, in the center of your mind, in the center of existence, is this great tree of knowledge. Right? Because for dharmas to work, knowledge has to be behind them. It's not just happenstance. This is not a chaos. Huh? For these dharmas to work, there has to be an amazing, intelligent, consistent intelligence that's operating dharma. And Ishwara, or the causal body or consciousness, is called Dharma Raja, is the king of dharma. He or she or it consciousness, right, operates dharma. It's very intelligent. And when our attitude gets wrong, when we don't understand who we are in our place, then we destroy that tree of knowledge, and the whole thing becomes a big war. That's the basic idea. And so this was just the basic dharma of the mind. He says, for one who does not feed the senses come back to the self, leaving the longing behind. Huh? In other words, if you don't chase objects outside, what happens? The mind turns inside, looks for the joy inside. Huh? Simple. See the principle there? The mind's always looking for happiness. If you can what? Deny it the happiness, in other words, through your understanding that there's no joy in the objects, and then you step back from the objects and refuse to pursue them, then the mind becomes pure and it turns inward and goes and looks for the joy inside. That's a dharma, that's a rule. That's how it works. See? Now you may not want to do that because you're attached to your belief that the joy is in the objects that you want, because you think they'll complete you. But whether you want to do it or not, that's how the mind works. And that's why we're explaining it here. To understand it's the nature of the mind to seek the self. But when ignorance is operating, it's seeking the self outside in objects. It's not seeking it inside where it actually is to be found. So he says, when the self is known to be oneself, even the longing goes away. So that's saying what? When the mind becomes satisfied with itself, what? The vasanas dry up. Your longing or craving for objects dry up. So then he gets on. Then he in the next 62 and 63 he says, again the psychology. See, this is all psychology. He says when you dwell on objects, attachment arises. When you think of money and sex, what? You get attached to money and sex. Attachment causes desire. You start wanting those objects because you're meditating on them, thinking about them all the time. You start wanting those things. Then what happens? Because the nature of the field is uncertain, you're not going to get what you want all the time. When you don't get what you want, what happens? Anger or depression. If you're rajasic, you get angry and you get pissed off. See what's happening to the psyche when it gets denied the object? It gets angry, or if you're tamasic, it gets depressed. Either way, it can go either way. These are just principles, and it's true for everybody. Right? When your mind gets angry, then you get deluded. In other words, you can't keep track of your goal. You can't keep track of what you want, and you get confused because those angry waves or that depressed state of mind obscures your what? Vision of what you're going for, what you want. Right? And then you what? You lose your memory. You can't remember what you're going for. And you're wandering around in a haze or a daze trying to figure out what's next and hoping that some light will shine that will attract you, that will show you the way. You call the astrologers, you do all sorts of things trying to figure out what to do next. You're confused, right? When memory goes, the mind is incapacitated. You can't keep, so your mind is like a rudderless ship, And when the mind no longer functions properly, one's life is destroyed. And then there's another verse a little bit down below. When you're like that and you're rowing your little life across the sea of life, your little boat across the sea of life, and a big wind, i.e. the vasanas, a strong vasana, a fear, desire comes up, it says it's like a big wind, and it just, no matter how hard you're rowing toward your goal, it just pushes you away from where you're going. So these are the basic psychological dharmas of the mind, the principles operating in the mind. Now, Art's going to talk about the cause of this psychology, what these basic patterns are operating in consciousness, the fundamental level. In other words, the structure of the personality. Because you don't structure your own personality. Nobody structures your personality. Your personality is given to you. Astrologers know this. Enneagram people know that it's obvious. You don't know what kind of a person you're going to be when you're born. You have no control over it. The imprint is your patterns are already there, imprinted on you, and they're going to act themselves out. And it pays to understand those things.